listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up?
I'm just relishing in the victory that we got to see tonight, where Taj Brooks cements his name into the record books. That's what I'm focusing on. Number one rusher in Texas Tech history, Taj Brooks. We did it, everyone. And that'll do it for me tonight. So thanks for everybody for listening. And we'll catch you on. Oh no, I'm getting a text from Spencer. Hang on.
The text says you can't leave me hanging. Not on this one.
Not on my watch. Okay. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with this 41-27 home loss to the Colorado Buffaloes?
Just start with the feelings.
Feelings. That's us.
Let's acknowledge how this one feels. You lost by 2 scores. I think Michael and I, in our pregame, predicted a 2-score loss.
Yes.
But hit me with that Matrix meme, not like this. Not like this. You had a 13-point lead to start the first quarter.
It was early.
And even then you felt like we left points there. Mm-hmm. We were leaving points on the field. That third score, well, I felt it both the second and the third drives, but it's like, especially after the third score, it's like you needed a touchdown on one of those 2 drives, and you didn't get it. To then go 41-14 the rest of the way. I think there were opportunities. You played well early. Another instance where it feels like Kitley's opening script is elite. And then the rest of the game may as well just be blindfolded in the corner watching a different game.
Well,
I don't understand it.
Even in sort of his defense, the offensive line held up for 3 drives.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was kind of that. So maybe that's part of it too. It's stamina related. I don't know. You look at this drive chart, and it's just opposite. I mean, things were going great for Tech, or they were going awful. There was no in between. Tech's defense forced punts on the first 4 drives. Tech's offense had a score on 3 of their first 4 drives, and then just kind of went lopsided after that the other way.
Yeah, so the Tech drive chart looks like this: touchdown, field goal, punt, field goal attempted on 4 plays, 7 yards. You were gifted that possession.
Yes.
And you got no points. Touchdown, turnover on downs, interception, fumble, turnover on downs, touchdown, fumble, end of game. That second half couldn't possibly have gone worse. Outside of maybe you scoring, the like not scoring on those 2 drives you did score. I don't know. Offensive line was just horrendous. And
to Colorado's credit, we did mentioned this on the episode this week. I think coming into this game, if they weren't number one, they were number two in sacks on the defensive side of the ball in the conference. After today, they're a clear number one. I mean, they're a disruptive front. They were able to get to the quarterback. We knew that was coming, but kind of like what you said on the opener, not like this. It's just it's one thing to know that they have guys that can get to the quarterback and rush, and but it's another thing to witness, 3 sacks for a loss of 21 yards and 8 tackles for a loss on the night. Oh no, I'm backwards on that. Wait a minute. No, Colorado had 6 sacks. I was reading text lines, which was great. We were glad to see some sacks on Sanders, but he takes them. He's smart with the football. He was still 70% completion tonight, even though they weren't really knocking it out of the park. They had a lot of quote unquote big plays, the 15-yard plus plays, but a lot of them were just that, 17, 24, 23. Not diminishing it, but it's not like Texas Tech allowed a back-breaking 75-yarder late in the game. It was just some big pass plays, and Hunter being the baller that he is. I think honestly Tech got fortunate that Hunter missed on a couple of some quote unquote easy ones, some that he would normally get just about any other week.
Supposedly his only 2 drops of the season, or at least
Really?
2 of his 33. Yeah, like he either had no drops coming in or just 1, and he had 2 tonight,
Wow.
this afternoon. I would be curious. I don't know where this data is kept. It may be like a PFF thing, and I don't pay for that. But I'd be curious to see how many of Colorado's passing yards came on targets at X number of yards downfield. Because it did not feel like they were going deep. It felt like everything was very Kitley-esque.
Yes.
Throw to the sideline, hold like absolute crazy on the outside, and just get away with it. Break tackles because you've also got just superior athletes. But let's not kid ourselves that everything was played absolutely clean. This game was just a mockery of the rules of football or how an officiating crew was supposed to handle themselves or a game. I want to go there at some point tonight, but I'm sure Kitley creamed his pants watching the Colorado offense. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I want. Dude. Let's not joke ourselves.
In his defense, that's probably why he keeps running them. Because when he runs them in practice, they work.
Yeah, well, 10 games in, Kitley, we should probably know. Well, actually, 10 games and 3 years in, you should know that's not how this offense works. I'm not yelling at you, Michael. Please don't.
Thank you.
Please don't be upset with me.
I was about to hang up this phone. It's gonna hang up this phone.
Don't make me turn this car around. Yeah, like I said, I'd be curious to see how far downfield Sanders' targets were. Like I said, it didn't feel like they were going downfield a lot. They hit some, and there were some opportunities there for sure. But it felt like a lot of them were quick passes to the sideline, definitely within the first 5 yards.
I can tell you that. You ready?
Okay. Oh yeah, please. Where is that?
So, if you go to the away team and then you can go to passing.
Oh, here we go.
So overall, at or behind the line of scrimmage, he was 13 of 17. Short passing, which
hold on. 13 of 17. They picked up 137 passing yards on passes caught at the line of scrimmage or behind.
Yes.
137 passing yards on completions at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Screen left, 5 of 6 for 62 yards. Screen right, 7 of 10 for 70. And then the short passing, 1 to 5 yards. He was 11 of 13. And they got 70 yards on those 13 catches. On those 11 catches.
So, of what I was looking for, passes completed within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, they picked up 207 yards on 24 of 30 passing attempts. The only real, I would say, deficit here in terms of like what his completion percentage was screen right. He was 7 of 10. Everywhere else, he was either perfect or was short of 1. 5 of 6 screen left, 1 of 1 screen middle, short left 2 of 3, short middle 3 of 4, short right 6 of 6. And then the rest of it, mid range to deep range, it's between 5 and 15 plus. He was 9 of 17 for 105 yards. So 2/3 of his passing yards came on passes completed within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's blocking and tackling.
Yes.
That's not throwing guys open. That's not breakdowns in coverage. That's blocking and tackling.
And something we may, or I'm not going to speak for you, but I underestimated was how well those receivers can block downfield. I knew how athletic they were and how good they were with the ball once they had it, and how they were able to grab the ball, coming their way. But yeah, it turns out they can block pretty well.
Yeah.
I see a tick in your face. Do you just want to get to the officiating now? Because when two of the most penalized teams clash, this is the kind of game you get. But I feel like there was a lot more to be discussed aside from just, well, there's a lot of penalties tonight. Well,
Yeah, it would be one thing if it was just procedural stuff,
sure,
or
yes.
like, oh man, like,
that was
hey,
a PI.
that could have gone either way, or whatever. I'll just say, like, I know I'm not the only one. I know our coach is probably going to be saddled with a fine come Monday morning from his post game comments. Has to be one of the worst officiated games I've ever watched.
And the point that my friend Adam kept bringing up, because we were texting each other during the game, is these guys are there to, one, enforce the rules of the game, but two, for player safety. And they were not upholding that end of it at all. I mean, I don't know how many face masks went uncalled, possible targetings went uncalled, ticky-tack.
After the whistle plays,
yeah. Well,
guys thrown down after the play's dead.
And a holding penalty apparently overrides an intentional grounding penalty. I never knew that. I mean, they never even called the intentional grounding penalty. They never mentioned it because there was a hold, I guess, downfield in the secondary when Sanders threw the ball and was 5 yards short of it getting to the line of scrimmage to avoid a sack. And that was never even brought up. It wasn't like they should mention that, because this guy liked to talk a lot. That was a turnover on downs. This will now be Colorado's ball. Like, okay, we know how football works. We don't need this.
This referee, this white hat, reminded me a lot of Reggie. And I it's ridiculous that I even remember his name, because you shouldn't know a referee's name. But this was the guy, again, very similar, was a Big 12 official, well known for just the absolute inane way that the games were handled under his crews, but was always on the microphone, always talking, always over explaining. Like, there was a time in the game where he came over the speaker and said, well, result of the play was a runner did not reach line of the game on 4th down. It's like, it was a tackle for loss, you dumb ass. Of course it was
that's the one I was talking about. That was the exact one I was talking about. Turnover Texas on Tech, downs, 4th Colorado and 1 ball. Like, we know.
4th and 1, tackled for loss, turnover downs. Result of the play was turnover on downs, 1st down, Colorado.
Oh.
Did you want the stadium PA job? Like, what?
We don't get a 5th down? Well, this
Casey,
is dumb.
you're doing Casey Cowan's job, man. Just let the man speak.
For a Colorado first down.
Okay, so there was a stretch there. And I can't remember. It was third and or fourth quarter where things were getting heated back and forth. I think, well, two things. Our fans, students specifically,
Guys,
idiots.
what are you
Ridiculous.
doing? You're not helping anybody.
But I would also like to point out, Colorado was egging it on. Dion was egging it on.
Well, there was
Travis Hunter picking up tortillas and stuffing in his pants. Shador Sanders signing tortillas. Shiloh Sanders throwing water bottles back into the crowd. Like, what are we doing?
Well, that was going on while an injured Tech player was laying on the field for at least 3 or 4 minutes. I think that was. I don't know if that was really mentioned highly on the broadcast. It was hard for me to hear in my house, but I think that's what riled the students up a lot too. Was the guys are on the bench probably giving the students hell, and maybe rightfully so, while there's a Tech player down on the field. Let's show a little decorum. And so, because I kept wondering, like, why are the Tech fans booing while there's a Tech player on the field? This doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, it's pot calling the kettle black at this point when our fans start throwing crap on the field. I don't know. We can't ask for too much from Colorado's 18-year-olds if we can't ask for the same from ours. It's just that's ridiculous. Making McGuire get on the mic and tell everybody to stop, and then it did feel like during all that the dam was about to break and we were about to see a section clear out like had happened before with Texas in town, and it seemed like I know this is not true, but it seemed like the refs were doing all they could to kind of egg it on themselves. They kept making calls against Tech or allowing Taj to just get completely blown up in the backfield or thrown to the ground on the sideline, or Morton just gets speared in the chest while he's already being tackled by somebody else. All that was perfectly fine, good football.
I think what was Dean Blandino. I don't know how much you were listening to the broadcast. At one point I turned it off. The audio. I was like, I can't. Apparently, this was their third game to do Colorado, and they were loving it. They were just eating it up. This is the Colorado we love to see. This is fantastic football to watch the growth and evolution of this team. Brock Hewer just has to eat it up. Anyways, before that though, distracted myself. So they had all the issue brewing on the sideline, students throwing stuff. And then like they had golden opportunity. Dean Blandino even came on and say like, you have an opportunity to get the game in hand and you didn't do it. They had the that first play that was against Taj Brooks running up the middle. They blow the whistle for forward progress. 3 Colorado defenders are just driving Brooks backwards and then throw him down. 3 of them throw him down in front of the white hat official, watches the whole thing, grins and shakes his head like, that's not. What are you looking at, man? And who are you smiling at, grinning with that shit-eating grin, refusing to, like, you had a golden opportunity presented to yourself to, hey, like whether or not like that was the most egregious after the whistle penalty, you could have said it was, because like blew the whistle, they continued to push backwards and then pushed him to the ground in front of you. Like you were gift wrapped an opportunity. Like, all right, that's it. That's fine. Like we're not having that. And he's just grinning and shaking his head. Nope. Mm-mm. Was it the next play?
I'm pretty
That
sure it was the next
Brooks
play.
is running outside the tackle, goes left to the sideline, Texas Tech sideline. Defender initiates the tackle, initiates that move, what do you want to call it? Inbounds, sure. Pushes him out of bounds and then throws him down by his shoulders. Gets the benefit of the doubt because the tackle, like they made contact and the tackle started inbounds. But again, like clearly out of bounds, clearly after like his forward progress, his momentum was stopped. He's not gaining more yards. You're in the middle of the Texas Tech coaching staff and he throws him to the ground. There's no penalty there. So like tensions were then very much uneasy with how the game was being allowed, or how the game was being allowed to be officiated, or how the game was being officiated. I believe that was the third quarter because Texas Tech was driving, the offense was driving north. Fourth quarter, there was an opportunity there where Baron Morton had a face mask go uncalled, and then a targeting call. Targeting was called. They went to review it, determined it wasn't targeting. Okay, but like that was only one of the penalties on that play.
Right.
You missed the face mask. Didn't call that. Had they called the face mask, they couldn't have taken that off, even if they had reviewed the targeting. And
Well, that was fourth down, too.
yeah,
I think some of these were on third or fourth downs that, especially that point in the game, Tech could have really used to move the chains and possibly get a scoring drive put together. But it ended those drives.
Okay, the other one, it was even earlier. It was in the third quarter. Colorado's first possession, because I was coming back, picking up dinner on the way back. Colorado's opening possession in the second half. Chapman Lewis is called for a roughing the passer.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
He hits Sanders in the hips. And they said he went too low.
It was too low. Then
His hips, his
Morton
waist.
gets just creamed from behind in his hamstring.
Which is lower than your hips, by the way.
Yeah, for those of you at home, that's lower, and that was fine though. That was okay, not too low, and it was his blind side, but still perfectly fine. I'm not saying those things cost Texas Tech the game. I didn't expect Texas Tech to win today. I knew that Colorado had a stout offense. I learned through what we were able to talk about last week that they have a stout defense, and it was going to take a lot to win this game. But that stuff sure didn't help. It sure didn't help, and it didn't ease tensions in the stadium. Luckily, like McGuire pointed out during the end of third quarter interview, luckily all the players and the coaches were keeping their heads. That's great. That's great to see. I almost wouldn't have minded though if they absolutely lost it on the guy that threw Taj Brooks out of the out of the field. I think I would have been okay with that at that point because it just seemed so bonkers that these guys were not being kept in check at all. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted. And then the fourth down that we talked about earlier, where Brooks obviously didn't make it to the first down or make it in the end zone, late in the game on that drive near the goal line. There was a face mask on that one that went uncalled. Mm-hmm. That was a fourth down. That would have been huge. Then it would have been first and goal at like the one. And Tech was, I think, at that point still down by. No, they were down by one score at that point. Maybe it doesn't matter. Revisionist history, but
listen,
yeah, that didn't help. None of that helped. I'll say that.
This was at 4:10 left in the fourth quarter. Let's see. Scoring. Yeah, it would have got you to 27-34.
Yeah.
With 4 minutes to go.
Yes. And a defense that, I know that Colorado got a little bit conservative there at the end. I mean, why wouldn't you? But 4 of their last 5 drives were 3-and-out punts. But I do think it was probably just trying to kill clock. I know all that, but they still may have done that at that same point in the game.
Their scoring drives, the offensive scoring drives in the fourth quarter, Michael. No,
only had
excuse me.
one.
They only had one. 20. It went 24 yards.
Yeah.
The last scoring drive in the third quarter went 31 yards. And obviously they had the fumble recovery in the end zone, which
I agree with that call. I mean, it was a fumble that was out of his hands before he started to make a throwing motion.
it was weird to me.
But that was fumble.
Weird to me that, like, depending on which angle you looked at, like you could have convinced me one, like, okay, so the one, you're out of the end zone, downfield of the offense looking back at him, like from like the 30 or whatever, looking back into the end zone, that angle, zoomed in, whatever, it looks like the ball's coming out, whatever. But from behind him, where you can see the rush coming in, he hits his hand, but that hand, like, I don't know where they consider the throwing motion started. If it's like any forward movement, the hand was moving forward before the defender touched it. So it's like, it could have been called either way, really. What really, really irked me about that, though, Michael, the Texas Tech offense just looked at the ball. They just watched it happen. There was no concern at all that was a turnover.
I didn't consider that, but yeah.
I don't want to just blast Morton here, because the offensive line is not Morton, his shortcoming. But also, he was having issues all game. There were times earlier in the game where he had guys open underneath and he looked at them and didn't throw to them. Revisionist here. Knowing me, I would have been like, okay, it's 3rd and 7. Why are you throwing the ball at that 3 yards downfield? What are you doing? So I get that. I probably would have complained about that too, especially, like, okay, there was one, I believe Coy Aiken was all on his own on the right. Baron Morton takes a snap, looks Aiken's way. He's open, has space, comes off of him and looks left, and then forces it into a window and then is incomplete. There was that one. There was another one even earlier in the game. Either way, like, it looked like he was not taking some of the easier passes or opportunities that were there. And then the offensive line did him absolutely no favors. But he held on the ball too long. That first fumble, I guess that would have been in the fourth quarter. It's bad. The whole thing was bad, man. Only defensible way that you can say that, like, you didn't see Hammond today is because he's already played in 2 games and he's got 2 more to go. If it's obviously, like, if it's clear in the game in Stillwater that Morton doesn't have it, and then you don't see Hammond come in, like, what's the hurt, man? Like, what are we holding out Hammond for at that point?
Well, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't burn a red shirt, as far as I know.
No, he's played in 2 games. You can play in up to 4, and that's regular season games. He can play in this you play in 4 regular season games plus a bowl game. I don't know about conference championships and playoffs and how all that works out, but I know we're not playing for a conference championship. We're not going to the playoff. You have 2 more regular season games and a bowl game. He can play. He can start in all three of them, really, but he can play in the rest of them and still consider this year a red shirt. I think there may have been a skill set difference that could have helped Texas Tech, and that Hammond has shown a quicker release. He's faster on his feet. Not saying it would have changed the game, not saying it would have won the game. Let me be clear, I'm not saying you lost because you left Morton out there. I'm saying there have been times where Morton looks absolutely unable to move the ball. This is 2 weeks now. He's got that 98-yard touchdown drive sprinkled in there from Iowa State. So like, well, you can see it happen sometimes. Yeah. I guess I can be complimentary of Kitley for remaining committed to the run.
Mm-hmm.
When through like most of the third quarter, Brooks was averaging like 2 yards per carry. And okay, let me be clear. I'm not saying Colorado cheated, but what it looked like was that they knew exactly what was happening. There's a way you can do that without cheating. I'm not saying Colorado cheated. I'm not even trying to like, I'm saying how well they defended the run, how they were blowing up the right gap that we were running through, and how they were able to get bodies to Brooks and bring him down so effectively. It's like they knew what we were calling. I'm being complimentary of the Colorado defense. I don't know how many different things. I'm not saying they cheated. It's like, but how well they played looked like they knew exactly what was happening. Our running scheme is not complicated. I'll give you that.
Yeah, they had a lot of film to work with. They probably
It's a lot of the exact same thing. So,
yeah.
But what I'm saying is like they were coming through at the right times. They were blowing up the right gaps, blitzing at the right time. It was well timed.
But you're right. I mean, Kitley stuck with it, and it started to pay off of all times, like in the third and fourth quarter. That's what the drive chart's showing me here is that the only four rushing plays of 10 yards or more were all in the fourth quarter, if this is true. And I know that sometimes this little chart is wrong, so grain of salt, everybody. But Brooks had rushes of 18, 17, 25, and 13 yards. And that was late.
Yeah. So what I was telling Samantha, because she was getting frustrated, and I was like, you know what? No, I actually, I'm okay with this commitment to the run because of the way that Taj Brooks runs. Those numbers will get bigger as the game goes on. Whether they're just wearing down the Colorado defense, whatever, we just see him get better through the game, and it happened.
Yep.
You ran 22 times for 1.5 yards per carry in the first half. 24 carries in the second half for 3.9 yards per carry. You picked up 3 times as many yards on essentially the same number of carries in the second half than you did in the first half. 70 of those second half yards came in the fourth quarter on 17 carries. You had 17 carries in the fourth quarter, 29 in the first 3. Oh, by the way, Taj Brooks now the number 1 career rushing leader for Texas Tech. You said that at the beginning of this show, but
I did, and that'll do it for us here on the. Just kidding.
that's all I got. I'm
Well. I did want to ask you, and I'm gonna say how I felt about it before I ask you, I guess,
okay.
or before I let you talk. I think I liked the fake punt. I think I liked the play call, but I hated the execution. That pass was to no one.
You know why it was to no one, Michael?
Why?
Because it was absolutely fucking defensive pass interference. The punt team, because they're expecting it to be a punt, locked him up. He's running downfield, locked him up. The ball goes over his head. They threw a flag on it, Michael, and then they picked it up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I missed
They
all of
even
that action.
discussed it. They discussed it.
I just like the play because we had a receiver there. He was open. It would have been a first down. I liked it. I was okay with it. I'm still okay with it. But yeah, now thanks to you, I'm angry about it. Not at
I'm not.
not at the call,
Yep, same.
but at
I
the non-call, I guess.
I didn't hate the play
No.
call.
Mm-mm.
I don't love that we're asking fourth string tight ends to throw the ball. Obviously, you'd be telegraphing it if Morton's back there or if Hammond's back there. You know what would be acceptable, Michael? Is if Hammond wore a different jersey. You know where we've seen this before?
Mm.
This is going back to Mike Leach days. Second string quarterback, Jacob Karam, on a special teams play, changed jersey numbers to throw the ball.
Don't they have to announce that in the stadium and stuff? Like, so and so will be wearing whatever jersey for this play.
I think that was instituted after this happened.
Ah,
And not
okay.
not like in response to this.
Sure, but just happened to have happened later.
Yeah, you know, like you can throw him out there in the 87 jersey. That's tight end to like. I mean, he's not tight end size. And they could have been like flipping through their journal real quick. Who wears number 15 for them? Snap. Oh, it's a quarterback. Oh no.
He has the ball.
No, you're right. That's probably why they don't do that kind of thing. Yeah, no, I didn't hate it. First impression, like when the ball sailed over his head, I was like, wow, who are we throwing to?
I know. That's how I felt too. And so I just thought, man, how did he biff that throw so bad? That I don't even want to say the players' names because I think I was wrong based off what you just told me. If there was defensive pass interference not allowing Brown to actually run his route and get open, then yeah, maybe I should cool it on the what an awful pass. Nah, maybe it wasn't.
Let me find it real quick. Was that in the fourth quarter?
It was late in the third.
It's a third.
Yeah.
So let's go quarter 3. Let's see a yeah. It says Brendan Jordan, but I wonder if that was too. I don't know. Yeah, Jason Llewellyn, backup tight end, pass short to the left, incomplete, intended for Brendan Jordan. That was the drive that ended at 3:16 left in the third quarter. I'm going to pull up that clip and I'm going to show you after we're done here because it's going to take me too long to find it as we're recording.
Oh, that's my bad. Yeah, I had the wrong receiver.
But yeah, that's all I got, Michael. I'm frustrated at how the game changed on you. It looked like your offense was moving the ball well. It slowed down. Then we went through the 40 minutes of absolute disgusting nothingness 2 weeks in a row. Came back. You somehow had a shot at this game with a minute to go. Down 1 score. I guess the final spread felt right. it felt like the game was not really in question for a lot of the game. At times, like you being as close as you were was kind of miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
But like it was just one of those things where like you could have buried them. You could have absolutely buried them in the first quarter. And then it comes back, you have the ball, you got a long, long way to go, but you have possession, down a score, with a minute to go. Like you still technically were in it. And then you have that turnover that ends in a touchdown.
Yeah,
So
and on the positive side, or not positive side, because it's really not, because scoring defense matters. But Texas Tech defense held this offense to 60 rush yards, sack adjusted. That was 81, so 3.4 yards per carry on the night, 291 through the air. But the stat that sticks out to me the most, you see that Texas Tech only allowed 2 of 13 on third down. You think, wow, what a defensive stand there. Like, well, no, I just think it was that simple. There towards the end, Colorado got really conservative, and when Colorado was scoring, they didn't need third down. They just kept moving the ball. They just didn't have to have it. So 2 of 13. I mean, great job defense, but it wasn't enough to slow them down. But they did a respectable job, I think. Especially against these talented receivers. No one cracked 100 yards. I mean, yeah, that does mean Travis Hunter had 99, but yeah, no one cracked 100 yards receiving. So I'll take that. But the the sacks and the tackles for a loss, the 6 sacks allowed by Tech's offensive line, the 10 tackles for a loss for 51 yards. Just brutal. It was just all happening at once, like it seems to. And so now we've got 2 weeks to kind of stew over this as Oklahoma State went into Fort Worth tonight and laid an absolute egg. They were down 24 to nothing at half, and they ended up losing 38 to 13. So Texas Tech is headed to a 3-7 Oklahoma State squad up in Stillwater in a couple weeks, and they feel like one of those. I'm still going to pick Tech to win now. I mean, I wouldn't have before the season started, but who knows? Who knows who's going to play quarterback next week? But maybe for either team. Not next week, next game, I should say.
yeah. Yeah. Who even knows, man?
Another look around the Big 12, just real quick, because there's not that many games. BYU and Utah kicked off as we were recording. It's still scoreless. But Kansas brought Iowa State to town in the Sunflower Showdown or whatever it's called. No, that's the other one. That's Kansas State. I can't remember what this one is. Anyway, defeated number 17 Iowa State 45 to 36. I think Iowa State had to rally to make it that close. I can't tell you for sure, but that changes things considerably. So Iowa State's now 7-2 on the year. They went 7-0 and then lost 2 in a row. Tell me, Tech fans, if you've experienced that before. Then West Virginia squeaked by on the road versus Cincinnati. So 31-24 win by West Virginia. And both of those teams are now 5-4, with, of course, West Virginia being Texas Tech's last opponent this year in the regular season. And UCF has the ball at Arizona State and is down by 4 with 5 seconds left. And I don't know what's happening there, but
On my ESPN app, it says Arizona State has the ball.
oh, really? Mine may not have changed fast enough. But yeah, that game, what little I got to watch has been, it's back and forth to say the least. to say the very least.
It's final. It just went final. Arizona State beats UCF 35-31.
Whew. So that brings Arizona State to a very solid 6-2. One of their only 2 losses is to your Red Raiders.
No, they're 7-2 now.
That didn't. Oh, it didn't update, did it? Yeah, it didn't. Weird. It updated UCF's, but not Arizona State's record. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it doesn't make me. It doesn't make me feel better.
No, me neither. It doesn't matter. So, a couple of weeks to stew on it, like I said. Take in some basketball.
Got lots of basketball games between now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Still
So-
working on a 7-man rotation. I guess we could do an instant reaction to last night's game, where
Toppin blew the lid off.
you were close with Northwestern State. I turned the game on. I was on the way home. Oh, here's the thing. I was almost went 45 minutes. I neglected to say this. I met a listener last night. Hats off to you. I don't know if he wants me to out him, but he's a longtime listener. Saw my hat, recognized me by the hat. Introduced himself as a longtime Stake in the Plains reader, a former Sound Tramp member, older gentleman. Did make the comment a couple of times that he has to make sure he's got plenty of time before he turns our show on. Yeah. You can if you want to listen to it, you can pause it and come back to it, or video.
Sure.
You just save your spot. But appreciate it. Appreciate
Try
it.
1.5. Maybe try 1.5 speed.
Or 2. I'm not a fast talker.
Oh, me neither. Then you put 2 of us together on a podcast. Thank you for listening, by the way. We really
thank you
appreciate
for and thanks for stopping by, saying hi. I was at
Yes.
my nephew's senior game last night for Abernathy. They played post Antelopes versus Antelopes. Very close, entertaining game. 7-6 at the halftime. Post ended up winning by a touchdown. They have just a phenomenal running back that Abernathy couldn't stop, and then the Abernathy offense just kept turning the ball over. But yeah, so driving back from that game last night, I looked at the score a couple times. When I got back in the car, when I was frozen. It was a very cold 45 degrees last night.
Yes, it was.
Texas Tech was only up by 12 with like 3 minutes to go. I was like, oh, this game is way too close. And then before it went final, Texas Tech had extended it to a 23-point lead. I was like, that's more like it.
It took a little while to get there. I know that Tech was struggling.
It took 37 minutes to put them away.
Yeah. I'm not saying they were struggling, but they were not as dominant on the boards as they were in the first game. But it was, Toppin had a really good game, and I think D5 was really close to either a triple-double or a double-double, something. It was one of the 2.
Okay, McMillan had 13 points, 8 rebounds. D5 had 8 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists.
Oh, there it was. I was like, he had a double somewhere. It
was
close to a triple.
Only 1 of 11 from the field, but had 11 assists. Yeah. Toppin had 25 points on 10 of 11 shooting. Had 7 rebounds. Did have 4 fouls, though. Other starters, Curran Walton had 11 points. Devin Cambridge had 5. Kevin Overton finished the game with 19 points off the bench, 5 of 13 from the field, 8 of 9 from the free throw line, and 4 rebounds. Federico fouls out. I missed this. He fouled out. He had 5 points in 18 minutes.
Yeah.
So, there you go. We'll have more on the basketball team and all that, everything on Tuesday. But Texas Tech 2-0.
2-0.
Taking care of business.
Lady Raiders, too. Took care of Houston Christian, I believe.
And UIW, Incarnate Word.
That's right.
Gave up 48 to Incarnate Word, 40 to Houston Christian.
Yeah, 1-23.
All right. That'll do it for us on Swing Through Personal Podcast. We've got a bye week coming up, so we'll have so much time to stew on this one. We will have a special guest for the Oklahoma State preview. We'll have a little swapsies there, so you can find us over on their podcast. They will join us. But we'll be back on Tuesday. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll get you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LVK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.
All right.
Let the tortillas fly.